Welcome boys and girls, Christine here with a discussion about some of the best campaigns in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. And what makes a campaign fit this list is not just having a powerful legendary lord, but also having a powerful legendary lord that really utilizes that power. It's a combination of good mechanics that work well, flow well with the game style of Warhammer 3. And at number 5, we have Arbaal the Undefeated. Yes, he is broken. Yes, he is overpowered. Yes, he decimates everyone that stands in his path on the campaign map. But that's kind of the point about Khorne, isn't it? Khorne should be about that kind of conflict. Though, of course, the downside is if you're playing Arbaal the Undefeated, if you lose a battle with him, then that's kind of it for your campaign. Sure, you can keep playing it after that stage, but it's not really recommended. So you kind of always have that tension point in an Arbaal campaign where you are extremely powerful, but you're also forced to take certain risks in this campaign. Because when you're playing a Khorne campaign, you want to keep your bloodletting up, so you can't just turtle around and do nothing in a campaign. You want to go out there, you want to be proactive, you want to defeat your opponents. And funnily enough, Khorne is also pretty good in terms of diplomacy. Hilariously so, I know. But Khorne can get a lot of things done from a diplomatic standpoint. And then you have the cults, which allow you to teleport your legendary lord around, among other benefits in your campaign. And then, of course, you've got Khorne's favor through the challenges of Khorne that give you actual foes to fight. It would be better, I think, with the challenges of Khorne if Creative Assembly just simply buffed certain enemies to be stronger as opposed to spawning rogue armies. So it's not necessarily the perfect system, the way it's designed, but between the inherent good design of Khorne post Omens of Destruction, as well as Arbaal's challenges, and the risk, if you will, that you have to take in this campaign, it ends up being an awesome game experience, and I would highly recommend it. He's focused on mortal units. He's got a lot of benefits in terms of global recruitment, in terms of those mortal units in his campaign, so he just ends up working very, very well. At number 4, we have Emperor Karl Franz, and what's amazing about this campaign is the sheer variety of choices and consequences for those choices that you have over here. Sure, a lot of people might think that when you're playing Karl Franz, what you have to do, and the only thing you have to do, is to focus on the Empire. But in reality, that's kind of not the only path that is available. In fact, it's kind of counterproductive to do so. The only parts of the Empire that matter are Nuln, Reichland, and Marienburg, and to some extent Midland. Everything else you can afford to lose. Sure, it will affect your Imperial authority, but if you're just playing the game of Imperial authority, then I think you're kind of missing the point of this campaign. Absolutely, there are certain things, certain electric counts you want to get, especially the electric count of Solend, because you do get Eldred's Guard. So a strategy I like to have in this particular campaign is actually just rush over here for the capital of Solend to take it before Elspeth and get those Eldred's, those units right there. Those spearmen with shields that have higher level of armor. But beyond that, and mind you, that's still a choice in its own right. But beyond that, you can go into Bretonnia if you want to. You can go further across the map than you might think. You've got Estalia, you've got Tylia, you've got the Border Princes, you've got Nehekara, you've got the jungle, for whatever unknowable reason. That is one variety in terms of the campaign. And then the Empire itself has a wide variety of units: infantry, cavalry, artillery units, range units, be it crossbowmen, huntsmen, or gunpowder units. So there is a lot of fun to be had with the Empire roster. The infantry is not that great, sure, but that's why Caraber Greatswords and Eldred's Guards are so very important in the campaign. And then on top of that, with Karl Franz, you can also get Emperor of the Empire, which allows you to confederate every single Imperial faction in the game as long as you get vision. To begin with, you can only unify electric count factions, and it does cost you fealty with others, but once you upgrade this, it becomes far more powerful. And you also can be a bit scaven with regards to diplomacy through diplomatic talks with various factions. only starting with Electric Counts or Imperial factions, and then unlocking it with the Order-type factions, so High Elves, Kislev, Bretonnia, Dwarves, and Cathay. Like, just a lot of choices over there in terms of diplomacy, in terms of which settlements you're going to grow, how you're going to recruit, things like sending aid, opening the gates, conscription, inquisition, requisition, so on and so forth. So lots of fun to be had, lots of variety in this campaign. Not the strongest armies in the game, sure, but an amazing campaign structure, I feel. And really, with Lords of the End Times, we can probably expect an Empire DLC that's hopefully going to give them some much needed infantry, so I think this campaign is going to end up being even better in the long term. And number 3 is Lokhir Fellheart of the Dark Elves. And Lokhir has the dominant naval faction in the game. First off, he can recruit more Black Arcs than anyone else and can have more Horde armies, naval Horde armies, than anyone else in the game. You just need major ports in order to increase the capacity. That's already a pretty big benefit. On top of that, for each Black Arc, he generates 500 income through naval markets. And keep in mind, this is province by province, so that is a ridiculous level of money that you can get there. And you can also improve the Black Arc growth. So not only do you have a lot of Horde armies, you can actually utilize them and make them useful during the course of a campaign, which is actually a problem when you're looking at vampire counts, when you're looking at any kind of Horde army that uses population surplus points. That is amazing. Furthermore, because we're just touching the tip of the iceberg with that, furthermore, he can also travel to a Black Arc by spending all of his movement range. So you can be very far inland and then just teleport from one portion of the map to the other side of the map. And finally, the ridiculous part about it is, with the addition of Sea Lord Aislinn, you can also unlock his special sea routes. Now, you do need to defeat Aislinn, but in order to unlock these sea routes that are exclusive to Aislinn at the beginning of the campaign, in order to get that, you just need to get the Eastern colonies. You don't need to destroy Aislinn altogether. You just need this entire province, and then you get those sea lanes. And that gives you a lot more variety during the course of your campaign. You can also Confederate Karankara for an event. You have a lot of choices. And on top of that, Dark Elves are pretty solid in terms of diplomacy. Yes, a lot of factions do dislike you, but it's not such an overwhelming level of aversion that you can't make diplomatic deals. You want to play an entire campaign where you ally with the Order Tide, you can do so, with the exception of High Elves. That is the one situation that we have to tackle during the course of a campaign. Like, if you're playing Dark Elves, you have to fight High Elves, or you're very much encouraged to fight High Elves. But with the exception of that, you can either ally the Order Tide or the Cast Tide, Disorder, whoever you want. As I said, factions may dislike you, but you can make it work. And Lokhir works best within the system of Dark Elves because he gets the sacrifice of an Rima, which gives him more income from sacking settlements, a lot more Black Arc growth, and then you combine that with the sacrifice of Cain, it ends up being pretty damn ridiculous. The rights maybe of the Dark Elves, their cooldowns, and Dark Elves in general could use some improvements, but honestly, the best part of Tides of Torment, it is actually Lokhir, without really a doubt. Well, I mean, there's another one, sure, there's Throgg, but let's get into that. Because at number 2, we have Throgg, the Troll King, and really the Norska rework might as well be a love letter to Throgg, the Troll King. He is ridiculously good following the Norska rework. And he's actually the best Norscan campaign by far. Partly because he gets this building right here, Troll Grotto, which gives him extra growth and income compared to the other Norscan legendary lords, which is a significant benefit in his campaign. On top of that, he can easily recruit trolls, and not just Norscan trolls or Norscan ice trolls, but all kinds of trolls across the campaign map. I think the system of recruiting trolls could potentially use some work, because all you really need is one specific den for each type to unlock them. But really, the level of power that you get through these troll dens is ridiculous. Stone trolls, river trolls, chaos armor trolls, it is a ridiculous level of power. And then you combine that with all the kind of benefits you get through Empire of Trolls, as opposed, especially adding the Call of the Monstrous Horde to every single army you have. Yes, there are some rebalancing and also some fixes, Creative Assembly. I still see that PH for Nurgle right there. Just shows how Creative Assembly cares to fix these kind of things. But on top of that, he gets unique research over here with Ways of the Monstrous Horde, which gives him population surplus for every captured settlement, which stacks with Under Their Gaze. So, pretty ridiculous. And beyond all the awesome troll benefits, which introduces more variety to a Norscan campaign than the default one, you also can confederate Wulfric relatively easily. So in fact, Wulfric more often than not is going to declare war on you. But when you confederate Wulfric, what you get through that specific campaign is you get the ability of using Seafang. Because Seafang is attached to Wulfric. So you can teleport virtually unlimited armies across the campaign map using Seafang. Of course, you need to be at sea with all those armies, and it does increase the cooldown by quite a substantial amount, dependent on the number of armies you use. But when you're playing a Throgg, you're basically playing the Troll Empire plus Wulfric combined, so you kind of have like the two mechanics, the mechanics of two legendary lords in one, because of the way they decided to go with Wulfric. So that is a very awesome freaking campaign structure that Creative Assembly did for Throgg. And finally, of course, at number 1, we have Malakai Makaisson. I've talked a lot about him. I think a lot of people know why he's so awesome, but just a quick recap on that. He is essentially the Gotrek and Felix campaign personified in Warhammer 3, and that's already pretty damn awesome. On top, and beyond that, you have the Age of Reckoning, which gives you these kind of constant objectives or some thing to aim for in the short term. You have legendary grudges and confederations to aim for as long-term objectives in your campaign. And it can feel very dynamic, because outside of wanting to confederate Grombrindle very quickly in a campaign, usually when you're playing a dwarf campaign, you want to choose to confederate the one faction that may give you the most benefits. It can be the faction with the most amount of territory, can be Thorgrim, can be Belegar, can be Thoric. Or you can focus on their skill line. So that absolutely varies the campaign experience by quite a bit, especially when you consider that confederating a legendary lord also gives you their territory, and because of that, it gives you the ability of completing certain legendary grudges as opposed to others in your campaign. So that opens up a huge amount of variety in a campaign inherently, and then on top of that, you of course have the adventures, which are more like midterm objectives that really buff up your units. And what's great about this campaign is, yes, you have a lot of power, but you actually utilize that power. You have Throgg to the west, Throt to the south, Azazel as well, and all of the factions in the north to deal with. So you're in a vulnerable campaign situation where a lot of the power that Malakai has, you actually need to utilize it properly in order to survive, really, the myriad of foes that you are dealing with. And that's what makes this campaign so amazing to actually play. The sheer variety of units, the variety of objectives, the variety of foes that you have to deal with. And that's why Malakai is honestly the best campaign that Creative Assembly has ever designed. That's all I had to say. Christine signing out. I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications.